cover the basic stuff of Survey123. So I'm assuming most, if not all of you, have some understanding of Survey123 and Survey123 Connect, how to author surveys, the basics, field types, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to breeze over some of that. So if you don't, just try to follow along as best you can. Know that our YouTube channel has a lot of Survey123 stuff for the beginning stuff, the early stuff, the basics. There's also a ton of stuff out there on the web that Esri has out and other stuff. So if you need that early on, the beginner stuff, please go out and find that, and then this will make a lot more sense. But we're going to just create some new surveys, 3 different types, and then we're going to look at 3 or 4 basic calculations that are probably going to be useful for most of you. So the real basic stuff, where do you get Survey123 Connect, right? If you don't have it, you would just go to the Survey123 downloads page, and we have this linked. So we do send these out, that'll be there. But if you just Google Survey123 download, it will take you right to it. And you will go to a page that looks like this. And right here at the very bottom, you'll see Survey123 Connect. And there's a Windows x64 download. It will start downloading. I'm not going to open that because I already have it. But if you need it, this is where you would find it. So now when we go back, once we open Connect, we're gonna look at templates. There's just 2. There's advanced and standard. We'll cover kind of the real general difference between those. And then I'm gonna show you that there's some really awesome samples that we can use to get started. And we're actually gonna start with a sample to get our first survey made from scratch and get that hosted feature layer created and show you how easy it is to get started. So with that said, we're gonna just jump into Connect here. So when you open Survey123 Connect, if you're not logged in, you're going to need to click up here and configure your login. You can see I'm logged in to CloudPoint Geo's ArcGIS Online. I'm using the demo user. If you need help getting your portal connection set up, if you are connecting to portal for ArcGIS instead of ArcGIS Online, you can do that here. Add connection, put your portal URL in, boom, you're getting started. So if you have ArcGIS Online, you can use the default that's always going to be there, the ArcGIS Online, or you can configure a new connection using your custom ArcGIS Online URL like I have here. So whichever one is checked is what's going to run when you click sign in or sign out. That's the one that you'll be connecting to. So for some of you, you might have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes more than that. So all right, we got that covered. So when you open Survey123 Connect, aside from logging in, you're going to be greeted with your survey designs. Now, this is a list of surveys that either your current user has published to your portal, or if you have them locally on your machine in the My Survey Designs folder that's connected to the software, you're going to see those on your screen. So as we build one, you're going to see a new thumbnail pop up. That's going to be my new survey. And these, with these download buttons here, that means that this user that I'm logged in as has already published these 4 surveys, but they're not locally on my machine for editing and looking at the background in Connect. So if you click this button, it'll download it locally to your machine. You can get started, get working with it, change anything you need to, republish, that kind of stuff. So, all right, I got to talk fast. I'm sorry if it's going too fast, but the recording will help if you need to go back and listen to some of this stuff. So when you open a new survey, the default title is going to be Form 1. Please, please, please do not proceed without changing the title of this survey that you're creating. Form 1 does not mean anything to anyone once it's published and in use. If you're creating a feature layer using a survey like we're going to do here, that is what the name of the feature layer will be. So always, always, always give it a title. Now, you may not know your title right off the bat. Like in this case, we're going to go look for a sample and get started. But once you get something figured out, before you click Create Survey, please change this to something useful. So the first thing I wanted to cover that we're going to look at is the two types of templates you can start with. This is for those of you that like to just start from scratch. You know what you want. You just want a blank canvas to make your artwork, right? Your Survey123 artwork. The only difference here between advanced and standard is the biggest change is that your standard template is going to be configured, that XLS form is going to have reduced options for editing and creating new questions to only allow you what is available in the web app. Now, that is where you would be consuming or using a Survey123 form in the browser. That is separate from the Survey123 app that you would have on your mobile device or even on your Windows computer. You can have the field app running. So keep in mind that if you are going to have exclusive web use, web consumption of your Survey123 form, or maybe a hybrid where some people might use it on their device, some people might use it in the web. Keep in mind that not everything you can do in the advanced template is going to work in the web based, the web app, the consumption via the browser. So, you know, it's always good when you start to decide or try to figure out how are my users going to consume this. So in this case, we're going to just show how easy it is to get started with an advanced template. I know all of my users are going to use the field app. So, you know, again, do not use form 1. We're going to say test form. That's, you know, still not great, but it's better than form 1. And then we've highlighted this. We're going to click create survey. And I'm not going to fill any of this stuff out because we're going to use a sample, but I just want to show at least the basic of here you go. Now, this is where I'm assuming you know what to do from here. Start filling in the questions as rows in the XLS form and, you know, type, name, label, all that stuff. We've got all kinds of rows that you can use to modify and create some really supercharged forms. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this. We're going to back out of here. And now we're going to start with, okay, so we saw how the template works. Now there's some other really cool stuff in here, but we're going to jump into, there's templates that you can use and there's samples. So your samples are going to be more or less for those of you that know what you want to try to incorporate into your surveys as far as functionality, and maybe you just want to see how does that work. Show me something that works so I can figure out what do I need to configure in my XLS form in the background. So if you wanted to use something that maybe calculates location from a geopoint, or you know, how do I format date and times, default values, all of that is in here. So Esri has provided default surveys that you can open and start using right away to see how some of this functionality works. So, you know, there's a ton of stuff and it's growing every quarter. It seems like there's something new in here. So just keep that in mind if you're wondering why something isn't working or how something works as far as functionality goes. These samples are going to be great. Now, the other thing and how we're going to start here is templates. These are all community-based templates. These are public use. Most of them are made by Esri, but some of them, if somebody's sharing publicly, you could actually start with one of their templates too. But for this case, I know that for this demo, we're going to say, I want to start a template. You know, I don't have any feature services created yet. I want my users to go out and do fire hydrant inspections. So I'm going to go in here and say, man, that'd be great if there was something already configured to show me just kind of a basic starting point, and there is. So now that I know what my survey is going to be, I'm going to go back in here and say, I want this to be called demo hydrant, if I can spell, inspections. I'm going to add another underline here just so I've got a name. This is going to not only be the title of my folder that I see in Survey123 Connect, but by default, this is going to be the name of the feature layer that I create later when I publish this. So now that we've got something selected, we're going to create survey and we're going to go in here. And you can see, voila, this opens up. I have a form. It's already working. It's got a map. That's great. It's got somewhere for me to put asset ID, all this stuff. It's doing something really cool that we're going to cover in part 2, where the address or the nearest address is already being populated based on where this point is. So if I move that and go back, now you can see it's changed. So if you're interested in that functionality, you need to be here for part 2 in a few weeks. So, but really, I mean, you can open this and see what's going on in the background. We've got some questions. They've given it some color coordination to kind of keep things simple. We've got all kinds of stuff in here. But the reality is, if I wanted to start with hydrant inspections, all I have to do is click this sample and click publish. And now, because this is brand new, I haven't done anything in the background to connect it to an existing feature service. Survey123 Connect is going to create a hosted feature layer wherever I'm logged in as, and it's going to match the schema that I've put together in my survey form. So, you know, if you want to design the survey first, this is a great way to go. Get the questions you need in there, and then let Survey123 Connect design your hosted feature layer and or related tables if you have those in there as well. So you can see how quick this is to get going. Done. Publishing is complete. Now, if I go over to my ArcGIS Online content, if I bring this over here, you're going to see that I actually probably need to refresh. There is a new folder called Survey-Demo Hydrant Inspections. Now, this is what was just created by Survey123 Connect for me to start using my form and submit data to a feature layer. It also gives us a web map that we can use in our form, or in a web map that we can use if you want to just view your feature layer. Now, one thing I must note on, and some of you may have run into this, if you move the form, this is your Survey123 form item. If you move this out of this folder, it is going to throw you an error next time you try to publish or an update, because this form lives in a folder that has a service item ID or a GUID that is actually tied into your survey. So if you ever get a weird error that it says it can't find your survey, make sure your form is living in the folder that it was originally created with. So all your surveys that are published are going to start with survey dash and then the name of the survey. So just something that we come across as we're publishing and managing a lot of forms. So that's it. You know, you could start using this form right now. We could open this and you could have your users download this onto their device. If I open Survey123 here and I go to download surveys, you're going to see that I can download this form right away. So within minutes, we have something that's able to be used and start collecting data. All right, so that was the first piece. Now let's go back, and I want to kind of show why, you know, if we go back to our PowerPoint here. So we went through this, and now we've created a new survey without any existing layer or table that we want to tie it to, using some settings in the background. So we're going to look at maybe some downfalls of having Survey123 Connect build your hosted feature layer when you decide you want to change something, and why you might move to the second bullet point here of using a survey or creating a survey to submit data to an existing feature layer. So we're going to go back, and I'm going to show you if I can get this to work. So why would we want to maybe use an existing feature layer? Well, because if I go in here to my form, and let's say somebody was out there and they said, hey, I want a new text field at the bottom to add some sort of extra data that wasn't in here to begin with. Well, that's great. So I'm going to go in here and yeah, that's easy. I'm just going to save this. I'm going to put this in here. Now, when I refresh my form, excuse me, I'm going to see what I would expect to see. A new field is added down to the form. Now, when I publish this, I'm going to get a warning because I've used Survey123 Connect to create my hosted feature layer. It is saying, hey, this survey was already published, and because you've added a new field that's not in the hosted feature layer we made for you originally, if you republish, all the data that has been collected, which right now is none, is going to be lost. Now, this is a huge, huge problem with using Survey123 Connect to create your feature layer. So there are ways around it, and we're going to talk about how to get around that. But without deleting all of your data, you cannot go in and add a field to your feature layer and or question to your survey. So this is why we would want to talk about the second piece here, where when I open a new survey, I want the ability to modify the schema on the fly. I know people are going to want changes and they're going to want to see different things, requirements change, needs change, right? So the second piece is, how do I use one with an existing feature service? Well, you can go right here and say feature services, and now this is going to get access to all feature services that you have access to, in this case, in my ArcGIS Online account. So I know that I want to make one that talks, submits data to my tree inventory data layer that I own. And I'm going to go ahead and click this, and now it's highlighted in green. And now if I was going to create a survey, I would hopefully catch that I did not give it a good name. And I'm going to say tree inventory data. Give it a good name, and then I'm going to click create survey. Now what's going to happen in the background, Survey123 Connect is querying what the schema is of this feature layer, and it's building a survey for me that matches everything I need to start submitting data through Survey123 Connect to my feature layer. So we're going to look at the background here, and you can see it's got a map and it's got all kinds of good stuff. And now it's just opened up my Survey123 XLS form here. And so it's already configured to have the same type, the question type that matches the type of field that's in my layer. And it's got the names, which is the field name or the background coded value, and then the label, which is my alias or my description of the field, already pre-built. It's got default values if I had any. It's got domains. If you look at these select ones, if I expand this, my choices is already configured with the domains, with the name and the codes and descriptions, names and labels, and connect with what I had configured for this layer. So this is beautiful. Again, within minutes, I can start creating and adding data to an existing feature layer that I have access to. So you might say, all right, well, that's great, but I know if I scroll down here, I've got these repeats that are starting. These are actually related tables on my feature layer. So this tree inventory layer has a point layer for the trees, and then it's got two related tables for maintenance records and tree inspections. Well, this survey, I just want to go ahead and, I'm going to let my users go ahead and use this survey to just create the tree point features, right? I don't care about inspections or maintenance records. So all you have to do is just delete everything that's below, the repeat is the start. Just go ahead and delete these. And now you've got all the fields that match your point feature layer. So if I go back in here and I look at settings, now this is where things get a little tricky and where people can sometimes get tripped up. But if I look at what I've got in here, when I used Survey123 Connect to create a survey from this feature service, it's given it a form title, which matches the name of the feature layer, or the title of the feature layer in my content. It's also given it the form ID value. That is the actual name of the point layer that I'm submitting data to. So within this hosted feature service of the demo data, there's a point layer called tree inventory demo. And how that works is it's got the name of the form ID and the submission URL. Now this URL is pretty basic for all use cases, the beginning of this, and then the item ID is the service item ID, or the GUI that is assigned to your hosted feature layer service. So you can get that from looking at the REST endpoint, or even in the content page, you can get this ID. But the other part of it, the beginning, when you're constructing these submission URLs, is going to be the URL to your portal, ArcGIS Online portal, enterprise portal, and then sharing REST content items, and then the ID. So a little confusing at first, but if you just kind of look at how this is created, it's something that you can create on the fly if you need to. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to close this. Yeah, sure, let's save it. And I'm going to go in here and click publish. And within a few minutes, as long as I didn't want to change anything, now you might want to change the appearance of some of these, right? But I'm going to click publish, and it's going to say, hey, all right, this is configured to use an existing service. There will not be a new service created. That's great. I'm going to click publish, and very quickly, I'm going to get the survey form that I need, and I would be able to share with users to start adding new point features to my existing layer. So if we go back in here and look now, at my content, we're going to see that there's a new survey, and this doesn't have the feature layer built into it because that already existed. It's got just a form and a web map. So you share this out, and you go in here and say, hey, I want to download surveys. And now I've got my new tree inventory data form. I can start adding features in the field to my existing layer. So the other thing was, when we go back in here and look at this, if I go back one page, so that's great. That's an existing point feature layer. What about related tables, right? This has been covered at length and in some of our other YouTube series videos, but or our Survey123 series, but it's still coming up. How do I get this related table configuration? So if we go back into Connect, we go through the same steps. New survey. My feature service already has a related table. I don't want to, I don't really care about creating new points. I just want to add records to my related table, just a row at a time. And so how this is going to work, this would obviously require some other integration from a map or an application to get to the survey. But you still start with the feature service, and you're going to go and create a survey. And remember, we went in there and deleted the two related table sections out. And now what I want to do, instead of deleting the related table pre-configured sections or the questions, I'm going to delete the first part that is above my first repeat, and that's my point layer data. And now, because I have two tables, I need to delete this other related table that's tree maintenance records. Now, I've got the one repeat, or the related table, as it's called on the other side of the world in ArcGIS Online. It's a repeat in Connect. It's a related table in ArcGIS Online or Portal. So I've got my fields that are in my related table for inspections, and I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of these begin and end repeats, because now that it's the only thing I'm going to have my survey, I don't need a repeat. The other thing is, you can't have a repeat, because when you're doing this workflow submitting to one related table, you can only submit one record at a time. So keep that in mind. You can also only submit to one related table at a time, unless you're also creating the point feature that's going to be related to those. So little tidbits to keep in mind, things we get asked. Can I do this? How do I do this? One, if you're submitting to a related table using Survey123, you can only submit to one, and you can only submit one row at a time, or one record at a time. So now if I go back in here, I've got just the fields for my related table. The only thing I need to change, this is giving me the form ID of the point layer, but I'm not submitting to the point layer anymore. I'm just submitting to the tree inspections related table. So the name of the form, again, you can change this. This is user driven. You can, designer driven. This can be whatever you want. You could say tree inventory inspections, and then the form ID, I need to go get the form, or the name of the service, or the name of the table in my feature layer. So I know that that is called tree_inspections, and I don't have to give it an instance name if I don't want to, but the submission URL, again, that stays the same. It's the same overall service. We're just submitting to one of the three pieces of it, which is one of these related tables. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And the other thing I need to do is be cognizant of, how is this relationship taking place? Well, I know in the back of my head, and you could go look this up, there's a parent_GUID field that I have in my service that is relating my tree point feature global ID field to the related table record. That parent GUID field on the related table is a GUID field that is populated with the same GUID, or the global ID, of the parent tree feature. That's how that relationship class is constructed. So for this to work, when you submit a new record, you have to have the parent GUID filled out, matching what tree feature you want it to be tied to. So aside from everything that's pre-done for us, the only thing we have to add is the field that we need to use to connect the two. Usually a GUID field, hopefully a GUID field using global IDs to relate your data. And then the settings, you just have to change the form ID to the name of the table, not the point layer. You can give this whatever you want. We can say parent GUID. And then all the way over here, even though it's a GUID field, it's a question that's a text type, or you can say hidden if you don't want users to see it. And you can go over here and change this in the Esri field type. This is where you define in the background what type of field it is when it's communicating with the service, or the table in this case. So I know that in my schema, this is Esri field type GUID field. It doesn't need a length because it's a GUID, but you'll see my other fields, if you went and looked at the schema, strings, doubles, integers, all that stuff is available. So this matches the schema in the background of my table. So I've done what I need to. Now I'm going to click save. And when I publish this now, oops, doesn't like that. Yes. So now when I publish this, my service is going to be ready for use. And now I've got a separate survey that is just going to submit a related record entry. Now, quickly, we'll cover while this publishes, how do you construct that URL to pass the global ID? Well, in a pop-up in a web map or field maps, you would have a URL that looks like this as a hyperlink, and then the ID of your survey, and then the field or the question that you want to be populated. So field 1 would be replaced with parent underscore GUID. That's the name of the field in my survey. And then equals would be the brackets of global ID that you're passing from the feature. So there's documentation on that. We show that in some of our other previous videos on Survey123 and related record entries. So if you need help with that, there's plenty of documentation to go with that. So now that this is done, we would be able to download this survey and submit just records that are going into my related table. So I know I'm moving fast, but it just kind of shows the basic functionality. And now we've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to talk about how would I maybe clean up some of this stuff in my, oh, what happened to my, how would I clean up the look and feel and maybe streamline some things using calculations? So we're going to look at 3. We're going to look at pull data, which is where you would pull data, in this case, from a CSV that maybe has some sort of related data that you want to pre-populate for users. And then we're going to look at how we use the string length field to tell if a previous question has anything in it, and maybe use that to kind of show and hide some things. And then we're going to look at a quick if statement. If one question is this, if the answer is this, then pre-populate this next question with this value. So I'm going to get back out of here, and I'm going to go back into Survey123. And now we're going to jump back in. I'm going to close this. We're going to jump back into the original tree inventory data. We're submitting new trees to the point features. So the first thing I wanted to cover was the pull data request. In this case, if we look at my tree layer, and I'm actually going to change this real quick so this makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to change the appearance for this to be autocomplete, and I'm going to do these as minimal, and that will streamline kind of the look and feel of this as we go through this. So we're just going to reduce the way this looks. So in my survey here, I'm asking people to pick a common name, and then I'm also asking them to pick a genus and species. Well, I don't know. I don't know exactly the genus and species off the top of my head for all these trees in this list. So wouldn't it be great if we could pre-populate that? They pick a common name. We use a pull data request on an existing CSV that has the common name, the genus and the species, and the scientific name to pre-populate that stuff. So what I'm going to do is go in here, and I'm going to grab a CSV that I have, and I'm going to show you. We're going to open the file. The files for this, and that's going to be in the media folder where you store the CSVs you want to use as a lookup. So I'm going to bring this over. This is pre-existing. I'm going to open this up real quick and show you what it looks like. If I expand these fields, you're going to see I've got a column code, description, genus, species, and scientific name. Now the code matches the domain values or the choices list in my survey. The description matches the label or the description in my choices or my domain. And then I've got the corresponding values for genus, species, and scientific name. So what I'm going to do when they pick Norway maple or honey locust, I'm going to come in here and find the row that matches and return one of these values. In this case, we're going to return the scientific name. So how this works with a pull data request, it takes 4 parameters. And I'm going to go back into my form, and this is what we would call a calculation. Very basic. We're going to select the field that we want to calculate. In this case, it's a scientific name. And I'm going to scroll over here to the calculation. So a pull data request is just the words pull data as one and then parentheses, and there's 4 parameters that go in here. So if we look at this, the pull data request has 4 parameters, and the first one is, I'm just going to copy and paste this so we can go through it here. Let me find it. The first pull data request is going to look like this. So it's the name, so it's pull data, and then it's the name of the CSV, that's parameter 1. Without the .csv, do not put the file extension in there. And then it is the value you want to return, or the column name that you want to return. So in this case, we want to return the corresponding scientific name for a tree that's in there. The third parameter is the code, or the value you want to use as your key. So in this case, if we go back and look at this, when my user selects something, I'm going to use this, the code column, to find the corresponding row. Now keep in mind with choices and domains, when the user selects from a list, it's actually storing the background value. The in this case, it's underscore Norway maple, not the value you see in the list, which is the nice, pretty, proper casing Norway maple. So I'm going to look up using this, and then I want to return the common name. So all right, and I want the scientific name, and the value I want to use to match the value in the CSV is the question, $, curly bracket, common name. You see that right here. When they pick something in this question, I want to return the scientific name. So I'm going to save this. And now when we go in here, I should probably close that. When we go in here, yes, sorry. I want to hopefully see when I pick Norway maple, my scientific name is automatically pre-populated using that lookup. So something very basic. It's got 4 parts, something you can get going right away. Now, the other thing I might want to do is, well, if it's going to be pre-populated, well, why do they even see it until they select common name? So this is where we can go back and use our string length function and say, until the string length is greater than 0, until a selection has been made in the common name field, don't show the scientific name field or the question below it. So let's go back in here and use that. And that string length has, so that would also be on the scientific name, but instead of a calculation, that's going to be a relevancy. That's your show or hide column. If this is true, show it. If not, don't show it. So in here, as we go to calculate this, string dash length, all lowercase, is the name of the function, and all it takes is the name of a question. So that would be $, curly brace, and again, I'm looking at the common name question, and I'm going to close the curly brace. So right now, the way this is function working, it says the string length of common name. So by default, with no selection has been made, that's going to be 0. So I'm going to say, okay, when this is greater than 0, I want to do something. So when string length or a selection has been made on common name, when it's greater than 0, when that's true, I want to show the question. So now if I save this and I go back in here, if I refresh this form, the string length is 0 until we select something. So you can see right below genus and above status, we would expect to see the scientific name question. Well, it's not there yet because this has no selection. Now, as soon as I select honey locust, the string length becomes greater than 0. That shows the question, and now we see this is populated as well. So two functions working together. One's a calculation, one's a relevancy. Very basic stuff, but really powerful once you kind of get the feel of how this all works together and how you can clean things up and streamline data entry. All right, so the last one, an if statement. If one question equals this, I want my new question to equal this. So I'm going to go in here and say, if I go back to my form here, we've got two questions at the bottom that say owned by and maintained by. Well, in this case, I know if our agency owns the tree, we also maintain the tree. So I'm going to just try to streamline some things for my users and say, if owned by equals our agency, then maintained by needs to equal our agency. So we're going to use an if statement to write a calculation on my field called maintained or maintained by, and it's going to reference the owned by question and check for the answer. So it just starts with lowercase if and then a parentheses, and then it's the statement that you want to evaluate. So I'm going to say if $ curly brace owned by another curly brace, if the question answer owned by equals in quotes our agency. Now, if you need to know what this value is, you need to go back again and look at the choices list and use the code or the name, not the label. If it equals our agency and then comma, so if this is true, I want my maintained by to also be populated with its predefined choices or domain value of our agency. If that is not true, and that's after another comma, return something else. In this case, keep it blank, and then close the parentheses. So this has three pieces inside the parentheses: the evaluation, or what the statement you want to evaluate, true or false. The next piece after the comma is if it's true, do this. If it's false, do this. So if it's true, return our agency. If it's false, return blank. I'm going to click save. And now, oops, that's in the wrong column. Sorry, guys. That's calculation, not constraint. All right, save. So I need to finish up here, but what happens is now as users go down here, we'll recap what we did earlier. Red Maple shows the scientific question and also populates it with the value from my CSV. And if I scroll down here, all this other stuff, if I pick, so we would expect to see if I pick owned by our agency, maintained by will also become our agency. Beautiful, perfect. Now, if I picked something else, other or private, it's going to be left blank because that does not meet the initial statement I was evaluating against. So quick example of how some of these basic calculations work, how they can all work in the same survey. And now I'm going to go back. I've got just a couple things. So helpful resources with these last couple minutes. If you're looking for help, aside from this wonderful video that will be on YouTube very shortly, there's a ton of stuff in Survey123 on the website, on the docs page. There's a blog, the samples in Connect. I can't stress enough how helpful those are when you're trying to figure out functionality like the stuff I just covered today. Now, if you're looking for how to get to those, real quick, once you get Connect going, there's a really cool thing on the front page where instead of survey designs, you can go to tutorials and get access to the gallery and the resources and the downloads. And then if you go to community, there's the blogs that are coming from the blogs. There's documentation. You can ask questions and see things. And then there's videos. So this is their YouTube videos that Esri has out. So all stuff that's really good to know. It's available. And I'm going to have to stop there. But thanks for following along. I know I had to move fast. And I'm going to turn it over to Bill. Hopefully, you guys at least learned a couple little things for Survey123.
Yeah.